Good evening, everyone. My name is Renee Shaw, producer and host at Kentucky Educational Television, and since education is our middle name, I am really honored to be here for tonight and the next two nights to help you learn more about these candidates for Fayette County Superintendent. And we're delighted to start things off tonight with Ms. Lou Young, who's been with the Jessamine County Public School System since 1983, serving her second term as superintendent there. So let's just take some time to get to know you better and tell us more about your goals and accomplishments there and what you would like to do in this role here in Fayette County.
Okay, well, thank you, and good evening to everyone who's here to hear the public forum tonight. I appreciate the support of many good friends and family members who are in the room, and for those of you whom I haven't met, thank you for joining us. I have been in Jessamine County Schools my entire career, since 1983. In fact, graduated from Jessamine County High School in 1977. Came back to teach after having graduated from Eastern Kentucky University with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in Spanish. I love my home district. I love the work that we're doing there, but at the same time, the position here in Fayette County was one of those positions I just felt like I needed to go for, and that I might regret not actually doing that. So it's been a whirlwind of a day, but very exciting. You mentioned the work that we're doing in Jessamine County. I'm very proud of that work. We're the 16th largest district in the state, but that just means 12 schools and 7,800 students. But we have done a lot of good work in the community, and I'm proud of that.
Well, we've had a lot of participation. More than 200 and something questions were submitted by 150 folks, so there was great interest in this position, and so we'll just share these questions and concerns with you tonight. The public school system is an integral part of the community and is essential that the school leadership work closely with local groups on issues that affect both students and the public good. Please elaborate on your commitment to working with local businesses, community, nonprofit, and faith leaders, and truly embracing the school system as a part of the greater Lexington community.
Okay. We started this morning at 7 at the United Way of the Bluegrass with several members of the community, and I think it was a real testament to Fayette County that so many people were willing to turn out for this process and to commit to 3 days in a row at 7 a.m. doing the same thing. So it was a delight to see the folks there, several people in the room whom I knew. I really believe that the 21st century is the time that we have got to maximize our resource opportunities as public schools, both to build advocacy around the needs of public school children, but also to build a community that embraces the needs of children and sets high expectations for teaching and learning. And I think that's the opportunity ahead of Fayette County. I feel like good work has happened to this point, and a lot of deep partnerships have been built across the community in support of public education. Again, to see so many people that were involved in the process was affirming of me this morning. I appreciate that very much, and I think that it is a community that has consistently set high expectations for its public school system, and that they are, in fact, willing to be engaged in that process.
Parental involvement, always key, and we know that that's an essential component to increased achievement for students. Does your current district have a family and community involvement policy? If yes, would you briefly describe it, the roles and responsibilities of both the administrator and the parents in your policy? And if not, how do you ensure parental involvement?
Under federal law, Title I, school districts who receive Title I funds are required to have family engagement, family involvement policies, and of course we do. We have individual school policies that encourage as much parent involvement across the district as possible. With the help of my deputy superintendent, we've also established a large council of councils parent forum opportunity in the district where we meet on regular occasions with parents who are willing to engage with us at the level of improving parent involvement across the district. So I'm excited about the work that we do there, but I will tell you that it's still one of those areas that I think is particularly challenging and one that we have got to consistently work on in districts. There are so many barriers, sometimes intended and sometimes unintended, that go up for parents that get in the way of their ability to be involved in their child's education, or to deter them from that, or to in some way dampen the advocacy that they have for their child. So I think that we have to always move forward in a genuine, authentic way to involve parents, to meet them perhaps where they are, instead of always requiring that parents have to come to us. conversations that we have with parents across the community. Home visits, Fayette has been tracking the number of home visits that they do on an annual basis. I think that's very admirable, especially with our parents of very young children who often don't have all the skills that they need to be good advocates. So finding an authentic way to work with parents in the public school setting and outside the public school setting, I think, is one of our greatest and most important challenges.
Let's talk about the achievement gap. What experience have you had in narrowing or closing that gap?
We have been specifically targeting, as required under No Child Left Behind, the performance of students in subpopulation groups. Jessamine County tends to be a very homogeneous community. We're not a very diverse community. Only about 6% of our students are African American. But we have diversity in terms of socioeconomics, with more than 50% of our students eligible for free and reduced lunch. And we have a fairly large population of students with disabilities. So it is in those two areas that we have targeted some specific work around closing achievement gaps. I am very, very proud of the work that we have done to raise expectations for students with disabilities across Jessamine County. We have seen significant improvement on their part, and in some cases, for example, significant increases in the number of students who persist, students with disabilities who persist to graduation. That's been a consistent collaborative effort on the part of our school leadership team, our district leadership team under the direction of our Director of Special Education, and working with families to set high expectations for students, even those with disabilities. So our data are trending in the right direction in that regard, and I'm extremely excited when I see the kinds of data that Fayette is putting forward about the achievement gap closing that's occurring here in this district.
How do you plan to communicate the value of assessment and accountability? And how do you respond to questions about an overemphasis on testing?
I sometimes, because I chair the state's School Curriculum Assessment and Accountability Council, I sometimes tend to think people think that I made up CATS, and somehow I'm solely responsible for it. I will tell you that I have a healthy respect for large-scale state accountability, and that one of the lasting impacts of No Child Left Behind will be that we have really shined the light on the performance of all students and every student, and that we will not let the performance of the majority students mask the performance of students of color, students of poverty, and students with disabilities. Having said that, I think that the message has to be one about a very, very healthy balance between real accountability to the communities whom we serve and really good formative assessment used for instructional purposes. And I don't think those two things have to compete. On the one pillar, we have state assessment and accountability, and that holds the superintendent, the building level principal, and every educator accountable for student learning over time. That happens once in a school year. It's looking at certain summative performances on the part of students, but it serves a purpose, and it has value. At the same time, if we're constantly chasing only that summative, we might lose the opportunity to have rich, valuable, formative data about student progress. And that's the work that I'm most excited about under Senate Bill 1, being able to develop formative assessments that really tell teachers what students know and can do, what interventive supports they may need, or what acceleration opportunities they may need if they're already performing beyond the standard expectation. So that's the real rocket science of the work that we do, understanding what formative assessment data tell us, and then how we can adjust instruction so that every child gets a rich experience based on what we know about their performance. It's a very demanding expectation of teachers, but in those two elements we find real balance, and I'm very excited about the direction Senate Bill 1 will be taking us in the new assessment age.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. FCPS has been able to remain financially secure despite the economic woes that our country, our state have been experiencing. What will you do to ensure that that financial stability continues?
I think that good stewardship and certainly a modicum of fiscal conservatism will be important to help Fayette County sustain the kinds of financial stability that they've experienced. Adding the additional nickel has had a dramatic impact in the last 10 years on the facilities in this district. I was really overwhelmed today in a positive way with the kinds of renovation and new construction work that's happening across the district. So that's to the board and leadership team's credit in that they've been able to really leverage those additional restricted funds for good school construction. At the same time, the fund balance appears to be very, very healthy, even though it looks like there was a deliberate drawdown this year. Superintendent Silberman said that there was an effort to escrow some finances and to restrict those funds, as we're now allowed to do under federal law, for some real specific purposes. That kind of financial leadership in the district, I think, is incredibly important if we're going to continue to improve teacher salaries, the salaries of our support staff and leadership team, and to raise entering teacher salaries to $40,000 for the first time across the state. Those are all very worthy efforts, and being able to build some financial stability that allows the district to do that is commendable.
Let's return back to SB1.
Okay.
What is your plan for helping FCPS prepare for the new Kentucky Core Academic Standards, Senate Bill 1 implementation, and the new end-of-course assessments, which will begin in 2011-2012 school year?
I'm excited about 2011-12, but I also worry about all of us, because we are, as often happens in education, we are looking at a system that will be superimposed on top of the work that we've been doing fairly consistently now since the early 90s. What we have to do is to help teachers and learners make sense of the new expectations while they're in the middle, directly in the middle of a system that they have been working with for several years. For example, a 12-year-old 8th grader has, since age 5, been working under a system, in standards-based system in mathematics, with certain changes, of course, over time, but they've matriculated through a system that's very clear-cut. Now we have a new system in math, and that system doesn't just magically work for him at age 12 in the 8th grade. So there are a lot of alignment, a lot of lesson development work that has to happen at all districts across Kentucky in order to be able to do this. But the good news is that the new standards really are living up to the hype. They are rigorous. Teachers, I'm getting very, very positive feedback from teachers who are working with the new standards in reading, language arts, and math, that this is the right direction for us to go, that the standards, in fact, will take us to higher levels of achievement. So I sense a real strong esprit de corps among folks to be willing to engage in the work, but I think that district and school leaders need to get in front of the message and make sure that we get out to parents and community that we are, in fact, in a transitional time period, and that we want to put out realistic expectations, not hedging our bet, but putting out realistic expectations about what we can expect for student achievement in the new model.